In the village of Eket-Ora, the elders say a poor man's rags can hide a king's heart, and a rich man's silence can hide a lesson the whole world needs to learn. This is the story of Obi Aniefiok, the man they called the Beggar of Eket-Ora Road. And the woman who chose him when choosing him cost her everything. Obi sat where the market road bent toward the river, his bowl in front of him, his back against the old baobab tree that had watched over that road longer than anyone could remember. Dust clung to his skin like a second garment. His voice, when he spoke, was soft, worn smooth by a month of asking strangers for kindness. Please help me. God will reward the generous heart. That was all he said, over and over, to men who spat near his feet and women who crossed the road to avoid him. Then came Ijeoma. She was walking with her cousin Blessing when she saw him, and something in her chest went still. She knew that face. She had grown up 2 houses down from the Aniefiok compound, had watched Obi as a boy chase goats through the market with his father's laughter following him. She had heard, years later, that his father's business had collapsed, that the family name had gone quiet, that Obi himself had vanished from the village gossip entirely, as if the earth had simply swallowed him. "That cannot be Obi," she whispered. Blessing squeezed her arm. "Don't look at him. Don't you dare stop. If anyone sees us near a beggar, they will start talking about us next." But Ijeoma did not walk on. She knelt in the dust in front of a man the whole road had stepped around. And she looked him in the eye, in the way you look at someone whose worth you still believe in. What Ijeoma did not know, what no one in Eket-Ora knew, was that Obi Aniefiok was the richest man in the country. His father's small business had not collapsed. It had been the seed of something enormous. In the years since he'd left the village, Obi had built a trading empire that stretched from the coast to 3 neighboring nations. All of it hidden behind a company name that meant nothing to anyone. All of it run by executives who took the public praise while Obi stayed in the shadows. He preferred it that way. Money changes how people look at you, he'd told his closest advisor once. And I wanted to know how they'd look at me with nothing. So once a year, for 1 month, Obi Aniefiok disappeared. He traded his tailored clothes for rags, walked into whichever town called to him, and sat with a bowl at his feet, watching humanity pass by, unfiltered and unimpressed. He wanted to see who still had kindness in them when kindness bought nothing back. Ijeoma bought him nothing back. She simply stayed. She brought him to the small, clean house she rented near the schoolyard where she taught. She bought him a shirt with money she didn't really have. She sat across from him at a wobbly wooden table and asked him what had happened. And when he said his business had failed, she did not flinch, did not calculate, did not leave. "I don't know how," she told him, "but I believe you'll rise again. And when you do, I want you to remember that I didn't wait until you had something to offer me." Obi went home that night, to the penthouse she didn't know existed, and sat alone for a long time. He had watched 100 people pass his bowl that month. Only a handful had stopped. None had stopped like this. He gave the order the next morning. End the disguise. Begin the search. He wanted the names, the stories, the struggles of every person who had shown him kindness while believing he had nothing. And he wanted to marry Ijeoma before the week was out. But Eket-Ora had a memory, and the memory had teeth. Word travels on a village road faster than a man can outrun it. By the time Ijeoma's mother, Mama Nkechi, heard that her daughter intended to marry that beggar from the river road, half the compound already knew. And the story had grown uglier with every mouth that carried it. "You will not do this," Mama Nkechi said, standing in her doorway like a wall. "I did not raise you to marry dust." "He is not dust," Ijeoma said. "He is a man who fell, and men who fall can rise." Rise with what? Coins from a begging bowl? What Mama Nkechi did not say, what only came out later, in the ugly hours after the wedding was supposed to happen, was that she had already promised Ijeoma to another man. Chief Okonkwo's son, Uzo, had been courting Mama Nkechi's favor for 2 years with gifts and promises of land. And Mama Nkechi had quietly accepted every one of them, certain her daughter would eventually see reason. Obi's arrival had wrecked a bargain she'd already half sealed. So when Ijeoma refused to break the engagement, Mama Nkechi did what desperate people do. She took her daughter's phone while it charged in the next room, and she called Obi herself. "Ijeoma does not want to marry you," she told him, her voice flat and final. "Do not come. Do not embarrass this family further." Obi felt something in his chest crack, not from the words, but from how little they matched the woman who had knelt in the dust for him. "Let me hear it from Ijeoma herself. She will not speak to you again." The line went dead. Ijeoma's number, when he tried it after, no longer connected. Mama Nkechi had taken the phone and quietly disabled it, cutting the one thread that could have unraveled her lie in a single conversation. Obi did not sit with his grief. He went to Eket-Ora anyway, still dressed as the beggar the village believed him to be, carrying the small bride price he had saved during his month on the road, determined to hear his rejection from Ijeoma's own mouth, or not at all. Mama Nkechi had posted men at the gate. "Turn back," the largest one said, "before you go home wearing your own blood." "I only want 5 minutes," Obi said. "I want to hear her voice." They did not give him 5 minutes. They gave him fists, and Obi, who could have ended the whole confrontation with a single phone call to men who answered to him in boardrooms across 3 countries, chose instead to stand there and take it. Because revealing himself now, in anger, in front of a crowd, felt like the wrong ending to a story he still believed could be saved with love instead of leverage. It was the commotion that brought everyone running. And it was in that chaos that Mama Nkechi's own body betrayed her secret. The stress of the standoff, the shouting, the sight of her daughter screaming at the gate, sent her into a seizure that dropped her to the dust, the same way Obi himself had sat in it for a month. Ijeoma fell beside her mother, begging for a car, a hospital, anyone. And it was Obi, beaten, bleeding at the mouth, still dressed in his rags, who lifted Mama Nkechi off the ground and ran. He did not run to a borrowed car. He called the number that still worked for exactly one thing in his life. His own convoy, waiting 3 streets away in case he ever needed it. Within minutes, a car that belonged to nobody in that village, driven by a man who called Obi Sir without hesitation, was speeding Mama Nkechi to the finest hospital in the region. A hospital Obi's own foundation had built 2 years earlier. It was in the hallway outside the emergency ward, still in his beggar's rags, that the truth finally caught up with the lie. A nurse addressed him by his real title without meaning to. A doctor thanked him for his foundation's generosity. Ijeoma, sitting beside her recovering mother, heard every word, then slowly turned to look at the man she had defended with nothing but her own 2 hands. "You let me love a beggar," she said, "and you were never a beggar at all." "I let you love a man," Obi answered, "before you ever knew what he had. That's the only kind of love I ever wanted." Mama Nkechi, weak in her hospital bed, said nothing for a long moment. Then she reached for her daughter's hand and said the only thing left to say, "I was wrong to sell what wasn't mine to sell. Forgive me." The wedding that finally happened in Eket-Ora 3 weeks later was small by Obi's standards, but the whole village came anyway, drawn by curiosity and this time, by something like shame. Uzo did not attend. Blessing did, standing near the back, unable to meet Ijeoma's eyes. The elders say now that the story is told to children before bed, not because of the riches at the end, but because of the beginning. Because Ijeoma knelt in the dust for a man before she knew what he was worth. And that is the only kind of wealth that was ever real in this story at all.